I am living dangerously right now. What it means, well, I think it's traditionally known as Amaro o'clock. They don't say that. I've just made that up. And it's a local Sardinian Amaro. But the danger is that it's sitting directly on my computer, so right next to the touchpad.
Oh.
But it's on a coaster. I'm not an animal.
No, of course not.
Yes. So I'm moving very slowly and very carefully.
So you're not going to get even remotely exercised or excited today?
No, this is the stillest that people will ever encounter me during a audio-only interview. No, conversation. This is a podcast in which two friends talk about the pleasures, absurdities, and imperfections of being human. I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller. Welcome to Midlifing.
Today's something very, speaking of crazy songs from the 1980s, we went to a place called, just out of a place called Osilo for a birthday party of a friend here, and lots of people there, most of whom I didn't know, and there's a couple there that have I don't really know about it actually. It's like it's like a community organization, and they put on community events, and has the acronym WIP, WIP, and acronimo, acronyms are always treated a little bit oddly in Italy because they're not big on them, but when they write them, they always just capitalize the first one and the others are small letters, which is odd for an English speaker because you kind of look at them and go, what's that? And then you realize it's an acronym.
Oh, it's an acronym. Yeah. But there's
exactly.
There's no lexical clue. Gotcha.
Yeah. And so anyway, this acronym is WIP. I don't know what it stands for. I can't remember, I was told. And then but they were talking about, they were trying to sort of put the word whip onto different things like picnic, like pick whip, for example, Anglophones in there said, well, do you know the song by Devo, Whip It? And which do you know it?
No.
You must whip it. Let me whip it, something like that. You must whip it. You don't know the song?
No, I know. Dun 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 dun. Push it. Push it good. That's all I know. Which is not whip it. That's push it. So no, I don't know.
So it was a little bit like that. Like some people vaguely remember it, and the others, yeah. And then Lil and I remembered it, and we were trying to. And then so we're in the middle of this. They've got an amazing section of land, like a large section of land, right out in the sticks, and so super wilded, and a lot of it's rewilded. And so we were out in this incredibly sort of beautiful nature sort of part, and with a cake and so I had my phone out trying to find the video too, after we'd described the hats they were wearing and all this, trying to find the video to Devo's Whip It. If anyone hasn't seen it or doesn't know it, you really got to. And then started playing it, and it came back to a lot of people. So we were sitting in standing around my little phone, everyone's singing the chorus to Whip It. But it's not quite as funny if you don't know if you don't know the song. Maybe it was just big in New Zealand or big in Australia. It's quite a catchy song. I mean, it's very, very hard to once it's in your head, it's very hard to, it's earworm material.
I feel I should put it in here.
Step on the square, break your mama's back.
I mean, we'll get kicked off YouTube, but yeah, just put a little slice of the chorus.
I was only going to put a tiny bit in, and in fact, listeners have enjoyed just a tiny bit of "Whip It" by Devo. Thanks for that, Simon, and welcome everybody.
You're so welcome. So, what have you got? What have you got for me, Lee Miller?
Well, I did have a question about male friendship, and I also had a question about expertise.
And can I choose one of those?
Yeah, of course you can.
You don't have a preference?
No, I've got something to ask you about both.
So, as two people who have now nearly had 300 episodes of a podcast, mostly talking about things we don't know anything about, I think a question about expertise seems entirely appropriate.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's exactly the way that we should go. My question is, I had a sit down with representatives from DSIT, the Department of Science, Innovation and Technology. Okay. And last year, in November, they published a white paper on post-16 skills. So post-16 education and skills and training.
And what's post-16?
Anything
Not the age.
after 16. Yeah, after the age of 16.
Expertise, yeah.
One of the things that came up in the white paper that was published, which this is available on the government's website if anybody wants to go and read it, so gov.org.uk, and just put white paper post-16 education. And you can find it and read it.
The large language model that is responsible for doing all the show notes, etc., will find it on purpose and not on purpose, and it'll be in the show notes.
Ah, brilliant. Well, there's a lot in there about the notion of specialism, and that made me think about what does it mean to be an expert in the context of AI, and its increasing ability to like hoover up stuff. And as a result, I was reading a book called Rethinking Expertise, which was written by a couple of people called Collins and Evans, and they've got two models of expertise: interactional expertise and contributory expertise. So interactional is kind of like you can talk the talk, and contributory expertise is, I guess, you can walk the walk. And just thinking about the idea that AI is the kind of the absolute pinnacle of interactional expertise. It's the thing that is like it's designed to bounce and talk and sound clever, sound like it knows what it's doing. And actually, obviously, it's based on lots of information, so it kind of knows what it's doing. But this idea of contributional and that idea of moving something forward through your expertise. And I was just thinking about the idea of the hours and hours and hours that you have put into, well, just bread making, leave alone the things that you've done professionally. And you've got like, I think of you as having like three distinct not moments, but epochs. So there's tennis Simon, there's dance/academic Simon, and they kind of bleed in and out of one another, and I know that they're not entirely interdependent, so maybe there's four. And then there's bread Simon.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this quite a bit lately. I mean, I certainly think about it in relation to AI, that's for sure. But maybe that's not what you want to talk about in this moment.
Well, the AI bit was kind of the way into the thinking.
So I think I would approach this I'd approach it from the perspective of degrees of abstraction. And by that I mean so much of what I'll just call it my jobby job. That is the one that I get paid the most money for at the university, is there are degrees of quite significant degrees of abstraction in it, whether that's the kind of writing I'm doing, or even research projects where, we're kind of gathering data on people, or not people, but about opinions or ideas. And there's some sense that the abstraction is manifest most clearly when I'm sitting in front of a computer, which is hardly a disembodied activity, right? No more than or no less than sitting at a desk reading, perhaps. But there's certainly something about this sense of abstraction, I feel, and I would say that I think my use of large language models has increased that n-fold, like to the nth degree. My sense that I'm not so much participating whatever the I is here, I'm not so much participating in it. It feels like it's swirling around me, and it's very hard to say what it is or to hold on to. And certainly if I can, and so then the question there of what my expertise there is challenged very directly. Right, very, very clearly in my mind. Well, actually, when I'm working with these models, these large language models, what expertise am I bringing to bear here? Because I'm definitely bringing expertise to bear. I'm not just going yep. Right? There are lots of judgments. There's discernment. There's all sorts of things about, and that's not quite right. All that sort of stuff. But that's very, very different from the deeply embodied expertise and understanding that comes from working with dough or, let's say, dancing. So there's all sorts of things. There's something kind of crossing over there, which is not quite as easy as the separation between being an academic and being someone who bakes a lot of bread. It's a little bit more, yeah. So there's just more the question of what the kind of expertise, or what I understand the expertise to be, which is being called into question tremendously. And I think that's happening all over the world, really, or certainly all over the people who use large language models world. That's
which is everybody who switches on a computer for their job at the moment. I think, if we're honest, there's very few people who are not encountering it to some degree.
Exactly. In fact, in many ways in which they probably don't even clock that they're encountering it. And perhaps the most obvious example of that is that mostly when we're using search engines now, we are using the AI-generated result at the top of the...
Yeah, you've got to actively work to switch that off, haven't you? Which is quite a curious thing. Has that made your No, ask the question differently. I think, when was the last time then you felt genuinely expert at work? I guess underneath that question, because has this way of being unsettled your feeling of expertise, or not? Maybe you never felt genuinely expert. And that's not that was a reflection of me rather than a dig at you, by the way. That was me thinking, I wonder if I've ever felt genuinely expert.
So I'm in the middle of writing a research paper, or like a book chapter, and no question I feel genuinely expert in that. I recognize its difficulty, the complexity, the thing that I'm really hunting for, and that I just don't quite have a handle on how to do it and how best to organize it. There's all sorts of things going on there. And I'm in that context, I'm using large language models, if we go back to that, very, very rarely. There are particular things I might do, which is mostly search-based stuff, but I'm being very mindful of not wanting to go into what I think of as a kind of rabbit hole of abstraction, where my relationship to what's going on gets diluted because of the extraordinary way in which they just keep generating more stuff for you. And they go, the next step would be this, and you go, sounds great. And then the next thing, you kind of end up in this kind of swirl of information, or this whirl of information. So, but what's curious to your question, I think, is that I am I recognize my expertise in other things that are going on, which I hadn't realized I'd become more of an expert than I was thinking, if you understand what I mean. The things that previously I would never have called my expert, I would never have called myself an expert, and I go, oh, wow, actually I've got some understanding there, and they're much more relational. They're much more in dealing with kinds of things between groups of people and giving a sense that, okay, I can organize or, let's say, lead a conversation about this and feel like there's some sort of direction without it being directed, all that kind of thing. So that's super interesting. Personally, I'm not necessarily saying it's interesting for other people listening, but yeah, so there's all sorts of things going on where expertise, let's say, manifests itself. But then, of course, there's lots of situations where it just go, oh, what the hell's going to happen here? Does that get at the...
Yeah, it really does, because I was thinking about the idea of expertness in relationship to skill and relationship to training and relationship to, I guess, both of us have worked through embodied practices. Both of us have worked through the body as a means to understand something and as a means to communicate something. Both of us have done that, I think, biomechanically, and both of us have done it artistically. We've both made a significant amount of performance practice, both on our own bodies and with bodies of others. Mine has been more linguistically driven because my practice is theatre. Yours has been more physically driven because your practice is dance. But none of those practices, or I should say neither of those practices, can efface the idea of the human presence.
Yes, although perhaps there are circumstances in which that is going on. But yep, I think I would agree.
Yeah, I think what I mean there is that in the context in which we have worked, if that makes sense, because we,
yes,
I think. Go on.
No, well, I guess maybe this is where you're heading, but yes, I think there's something about the expertise in those contexts which feels less troubled by all the stuff that's going on and the kind of headiness and the craziness of this AI. And I'll just call it a boom because in the sense of boom and bust,
exactly,
a bubble.
Yeah. And if you talk to economists, they will say that the bust is coming any second now. That the AI bubble cannot sustain itself because it's costing so many billions, and let's say for every 20 billion you're investing, it's returning 5 billion. And they don't see a model because it's so expensive to keep building these new, and the iteration of models, I think it's something like every 28 days a new model is being constructed now. And actually that's probably 6 months out of date, that information. It's probably even more sort of regular than that.
It certainly feels like the kind of the heady days of the internet boom, what was that? Late 90s. We call it late 90s? Yeah. 98,
the dot-coms.
Exactly.
Before we got to Web 2.0, when it was still...
Which ended in social media.
But it does, I think there is something very febrile about that whole thing. It feels very hot. In lots of ways. It feels hot because people are anxious about it and angry about it. It feels hot because will it make the money that it needs to? It feels hot because it's ruining the planet. It's like, join the queue of things to ruin the planet, kiddo. It's like, anyway. I think...
It's funny, go on.
Go on. No, go ahead.
Oh, no, just as an aside, I just was reading something just before we started recording, which was about how profoundly unpopular the heads of these technology companies they're despised, and their popularity is like, I can't remember what it was comparing it with, but they were really low down, in terms of how they sort of rated by people. But so there's something also about the kind of tolerating, because of the sort of sense that this is they've got us by the balls here, Yeah. So
Anyway, so the reason I think I was thinking about our practices, our embodied practices, was exactly that. It's because I think I have been reflecting differently upon them as an expertise, or that, in my body, my expertise, and like going, oh, that's interesting. That's probably the things that I've put the most hours into, in terms of deliberate training, turning up to class and putting in all of the hours and doing my however many 1,000 hours it is to be able to be good at it. I can never remember what that number is. It's 10,000 hours?
yeah, that's the what's the guy's name who writes those books? I was going to say William Golding, but no, that's Lord of the Flies.
That's Lord of the Flies. Although maybe you've got to put 10,000 hours of hanging around on an island,
desert island before you start killing your mates. Sorry, that was a bit of a spoiler for those of you who haven't read Lord of the Flies. Things don't go well for Piggy, I think it is the name.
Yeah. Oh dear.
What was his name? I've read so many of his books. I keep thinking of it. Gladwell, Malcolm Gladwell, and his 10,000 hours.
There we go. Him and his quick slicing things.
I think it's been slightly debunked. It's a little bit.
Yeah.
I think it's clearly it's a.
Yeah. But it's a good touchstone, isn't it? It's a good. I mean, I don't.
We've got to spend a lot of time doing something. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. But then the other thing that I'm expert in is something which is accidental. And it's the accident of, and it's a bit like what you were just saying about the relationality, the thing that you do at work. There's things I become expert at in my work life, my jobby job, I think you referred to it as a little while ago.
It felt like yesterday how long this conversation's running.
But yeah, it struck me that it's like, oh, hang about, there are things there that the boring part of my brain.
I think I don't know. I think it's curious. The thing that I guess I'm aware. So at the moment I'm also writing a kind of, I guess you might call it like an application, and I'm basically setting. I think I'm using Claude for that one. Just letting it go. I give it, quite a lot of context, and then just let it go, because I care about what's being written, but I know it's templatey enough for me not to need to spend too much of that kind of time. So I think what I'm talking about, and then I also recognize that, as I was talking before about the sort of book chapter I'm writing, where I'm very, very careful about not wanting to go into that kind of place where it feels like it's that you have no kind of relationship to the text other than to sort of peer at it every now and again and go, oh, it needs a bit of that. Could you have a go at that now, please? And so I think what I'm talking about there is a burgeoning skill, and certainly talking to a colleague the other day, and this is what really, really matters to people and who are employing young people, is actual kind of literacy around AI. That is, how is it being used? When is it best used? What are the different ways in which it might be avoided or best to be avoided, etc. And so I think that interests me tremendously, which is, this doesn't feel right. And I should say, this is all umbrellaed by a slight sense of shame when I'm using them. I did some what's called vibe coding, which I'm sure you've heard of. I'm sure most listeners have heard of, for the first time the other day. And I came across a website that I went, I really love that. I wonder if I could do that for my own, not my own website, but a website I'm looking after. And wow, was it great fun. It was so much fun. And built this sort of front page, which is so interactive and and it was amazing. And there's no way I would have been able to do that. No way. I mean, it would have taken months to have been able to train myself to learn all that stuff, most of which I probably knew a while ago, but not really. There's a lot of JavaScript in there, which I never learned. So, but yeah, it was really good fun. And I was as I was doing, I was going, oh my God, I can feel how excited and energized I am by doing this. And I didn't go to, I went to bed really late. No, never happened. So there's that flip side of it. So there's all that's there. So I'm in murky territory, personally, for sure. I'm in murky territory. Don't know what to think of it. Hate it, love it, wary of
Oh,
it.
well, I mean, I guess let's return to this in a couple of years' time and see.
Yeah.
Well, if Simon and Lee
after,
are still recording it, if we've not actually just handed it all over to the large language models.
yeah, I'll be actually quite look forward to talking to a deep fake version of you. See ya.
Bye.